16 years old, 1966. Paradise for me is having a driver's license at last. Anyone here ever been to Denver? You know what Colfax Avenue is like? Imagine it in the 60s. So here I am with a car full of my friends driving down Colfax Avenue at 16 years old, and we're looking for hippie chicks. And we're driving, and this car pulls up next to two guys looking pretty rough, and one of them has a pack of cigarettes rolled up in his T-shirt. The other one's wearing a poplin jacket, and they look at us, and we keep going. Next stoplight, they pull up next to us again, and we're getting kind of scared, and they look us over, and this time we roll up the windows and lock the doors. Next stoplight, they pull up next to us one more time, and the guy sitting closest to me reaches in his jacket and pulls out a badge. I pull over. They take us out of the car, and they roust us. They are searching the car, they are searching us, they frisk us, they go through everything, the trunk, everything. What are you looking for? You know what we're looking for. Finally, unable to find what they were looking for, they let us go and hands me back my driver's license. So I go, at last, right through a red light. Out of nowhere comes this motorcycle cop who I pull over, and he says, I should give you a ticket, but I just saw what happened. So he says, I just want you to go home. And so I agree to go home, and so I take my license back in my wallet, put my car into gear, and back up into his motorcycle. He tells me to drive home by the back roads, take my friends home, and don't come back to Colfax ever again. So for me, that paradise turned from hell into a playful memory. Well, 50 years later, I'm dealing with cancer. And this time, the cop pulling me over is taking out my bodily organs, and it's came pretty close to killing me. And through Patrick coming to LA and lots of prayers in this community and my own spiritual work and mental work and shadow work and all kinds of other efforts, have had what some would call a miraculous healing. I'm cancer clear now, and I plan to stay this way. But it took discovering that inner state of paradise. Where is the joy? Because it was so easy to go into the darkness and despair and fear and anger and why me and victimhood. God knows I know how to be a victim. And so I've gone through this process. And now here we are in 2018, and we're looking at our world, and I wake up this morning and news is filled with 9/11 and scenes of the buildings cascading down like two inverted mushroom clouds. And we're filled with fears of terrorism and fears of insanity in the White House and fears of, maybe it's insanity on the Supreme Court or corruption there maybe. And just dark, dark, dark news. Where can we find paradise in the midst of all this shadow work? And as I deal with this, I'm thinking to myself, where is the joy? Where is the light within me that can transform this world out here? How can I really help to produce a paradise on earth? Now, I grew up Jewish. And today is the second day of Rosh Hashanah, for those of you who are aware of it. It's the new year. In about a week we have Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement. I always thought it was very strange that the day of saying I'm sorry comes after the Day of New Beginnings. What's that about? And it took me a long time to finally figure out why it happens in that order. What I finally came to is that without that feeling of refreshment and renewal, it's hard to get the faith to say, I'm sorry. It's hard to get the faith to be able to say, here's where I screwed up. Here's what I want to do differently. Here's where and how I can make amends. Here's where I can have renewal of spirit. And so that's the process I'm in now. Where can I go within myself to find that light that really illuminates my life? Now, I've been doing a lot of activism in the world. I have, this week I called senators about the Supreme Court decision. I've written blog posts. I've done a lot of various things to try and get people to think about where are your ethics, where are your values, what can you do to change the way of the world. And now on the East Coast, they've got a hurricane coming in that might be one of the most devastating hurricanes they've ever had on the East Coast, or among them. They're comparing to a last hurricane of this scale like in the 50s. And is that going to be their truth? Are they going to plunge into darkness and chaos and who knows what kind of terrible things? Or are the people there going to be able to find some light within themselves to be able to transform what happens? We recently had a hurricane that looked like it was barreling down on us, didn't we? Now, I was among many of those people who were sitting here visualizing. Remember in the last Harry Potter movie where they put a bubble, an energy bubble over Hogwarts? How many of you were doing that around Kauai? Okay. Well, so now I'm visualizing that around the East Coast. And, a piece of me is sort of snidely saying, well, maybe it'll disrupt Washington. But I really wish that on anyone. What I'd like to see is for people to wake up and have enlightenment, actual enlightenment, feel a connection with spirit in their daily life so they're no longer mistaking beliefs for facts. Faith is powerful. Believe me, I know. But it's not the same as facts, and it's important to have both and find a balance. For me, that balance is part of the keys to paradise. In the Jewish tradition, we don't really have that notion of paradise like they do in Christianity. In Christianity, some aspects of Christianity, they say paradise is that state between heaven and hell. It's where you go, sort of like a purgatory, right? I'm not a Catholic, so I don't know exactly the language, but it's sort of like it's intermediary state. It's not yet divine heaven. It's not yet horrible hell. And yet it's that middle ground. Well, I don't want us to live in that middle ground. I want my state of mind to really be in heaven, whatever language you use for that. I want my state of mind to really be in bliss. I want to be able to actually feel that sweetness at the back of my tongue. I want to be able to actually sense that calm in my belly. I want to be able to really know with my deepest sense of inner knowing what's the truth, what's the highest truth in any given moment. Not always easy. Every day I go up and down. I'm a yo-yo. I may look like a human, but I'm a yo-yo. And the more I string myself along here, the more I sort of lead myself toward the light, whatever label I want to use for it on any given day. And if I can really allow that state of mind to guide me to that inner paradise, then I can start shaping the world. I have a book coming out. I have a client's book coming out that has some publicity behind it. Maybe it'll go somewhere. Maybe it'll matter in the world. All I can do is just go day by day and do the work in front of me, word by word, comma by comma, and try to create the best reality that I can. And if I do this, the little tiny steps, I can find the path to paradise. So it's more than just a state of mind, it's an action. I can't just think my way into it, although that's important. I have to take action. And if I do both of these, both see it clearly with my mind's eye, feel it in my heart with as much gratitude as I can, and really know that it's coming to pass. Everything we learn in affirmative prayer, and I really do it, and I take action. then, I believe, paradise transforms from just being a state of mind into a state of being on our earth. And I invite you to work with me toward that goal.